Urgent! Putin has gone all in. 1,000-strong horde has launched an offensive. The military and volunteers are sounding the alarm. It will begin in just a few days. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces are powerfully striking the enemy. A hellish trap has snapped shut. The Russians are surrounded. Everyone has been waiting for this. So what is happening on the front line right now? Let's go through everything step by step. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Renata Aslanova. The latest events. A major offensive by Russian forces is expected at the front. Ukrainian volunteer and military expert Maria Berlinska announced this on her Telegram channel. According to her, this could happen in the coming days.
There is information that the Russians will launch a major offensive in the next few days. What does this mean for us? Everything as always. Stay calm and in the coming weeks, help the front even more. Send everything necessary and as much as possible, especially to the Donetsk direction.
She called on Ukrainians to be more active in the information sphere and to convey the truth about events in our country to Western journalists.
Plus the information war. Write about what is happening on social media. Communicate with Western journalists. Tell human stories. What has the war done? Explain with concrete examples what Russian terror is.
According to Berlin's statement, the West must realize that Ukraine's defeat would mean a threat to Europe. The military expert emphasized, if they don't go all in now, if Ukraine falls, they will be next.
We need to convey one simple idea to the Western world. Putin will only stop where we stop him together.
While some Russians are preparing for a large-scale offensive, others are in a bad situation. Russian soldiers who tried to break through near Zaporizhzhia found themselves surrounded. This was reported on the national telethon by Viktor Trehubov, spokesperson for the operational strategic group Dnipro Forces. According to him, the Russian command tried to push through 2 pincers in the Zaporizhzhia area, but now these pincers have been cut off.
There are still groups of these Russians remaining directly in the tree lines there. But since they are cut off from their main supply and the bulk of their forces, it's more a matter of time before they are finished there. And against this backdrop, a few days ago, Deep State for the first time announced the occupation of settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Previously, the resource only reported on the enemy's advance in the area of Dakhna. According to analysts, the Russian invaders have captured the villages of Zaporizhzhia and Novorohorivka. This information was confirmed by Viktor Trehubov. Yes, the Russians have entered and are trying to gain a foothold. Ukrainian soldiers are fighting to hold their positions.
He assured that Ukraine's defenders are fighting to prevent the enemy from consolidating in the Dnipropetrovsk region. But it's not that simple. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine denied information about the enemy's capture of these villages. The statement specifically says that reports of the Russians occupying both of these settlements are not true. An expert, Mikhailo Zhirohov, described the actions of the occupiers in the Dnipropetrovsk region as possibly related to a tactic called flag in the ground, which they use to showcase their successes. According to him, the essence of this tactic is that Russian soldiers, following orders from their command, enter certain settlements in small groups, raise the tricolor flag, film it from the air, and then spread the footage. And some of our resources pick up on this. At the same time, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine emphasized that Russia is trying to pass off wishful thinking as reality by spreading false reports about the results of its spring-summer offensive. As they noted, after 3.5 years of the Kremlin's full-scale aggression, its latest seasonal offensive campaign has ended in virtually nothing. It is also specifically emphasized that the occupiers have not managed to establish full control over any major Ukrainian city. Instead, since the beginning of 2025, Russia has lost more than 290,000 of its soldiers killed and wounded. The General Staff also draws attention to the fact that the occupiers' figures regarding captured territories and settlements are greatly exaggerated. As for the aggressor country's claims of striking exclusively military targets, the General Staff reminded thousands of peaceful Ukrainian civilians who lose their homes, loved ones, and relatives every day know the true value of such praise. Wherever a Russian Iskander missile falls, it is allegedly claimed to be a command post of the armed forces of Ukraine or bases of foreign mercenaries. The consequence of Russia's constant violations of international humanitarian law is human lives lost. In Russia, they report the supposed destruction of Ukraine's missile industry, which is nothing more than a propaganda illusion. The General Staff emphasized, regular precision strikes on military targets deep inside Russia are the best refutation of Kremlin fabrications. General Gerasimov's final and comprehensive report is a typical example of aggressive Kremlin lies and blatant arrogance, demonstrating a clear disregard for truth. The Russian army is increasing its attacks in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Putin's soldiers are attacking Ukrainian military equipment and threatening Ukrainian soldiers. Russian troops are preparing for a large-scale offensive. Meanwhile, a counter-offensive by the Ukrainian armed forces took place. What is the situation on different sections of the front? All this and more in the following report.
The Russian army is ramping up its attacks in the Zaporizhzhia direction. This is footage of the 291st Motorized Rifle Regiment operating in the area of Orikhiv. Russian soldiers are using drones to attack Ukrainian military equipment and are threatening Ukrainian soldiers on camera. The significant increase in military and operational activity observed in the Zaporizhzhia direction has also been thoroughly documented and specifically noted by the highly respected Institute for the Study of War. They are confident that Russian forces are preparing for a large-scale offensive in this area and are currently actively exploring their options.
Russia may attempt to launch new offensive operations in the Zaporizhzhia direction. A representative of the Ukrainian brigade operating in the Zaporizhzhia direction reported that Russian forces are likely preparing for a large-scale offensive in this area, amassing troops, preparing reserves, regrouping, and conducting reconnaissance in the front-line areas. The representative stated that this increase in Russian activity is the first sign that Russian forces are preparing for a larger-scale operation, and noted that Russian troops are striking the antennas of Ukrainian drone control points. The representative stated that Russian forces are unlikely to attack with a large amount of heavy equipment, as they did in the spring of 2025, since Ukrainian drones and remote mining have been effective in destroying heavy equipment.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
But the Pokrovsk and Lyman directions remain the most intense as before. The occupiers carried out 37 and 31 assault actions, respectively. To maintain such intensity of combat operations, for the first time since the start of the full-scale aggression against Ukraine, the Russian state is spending every second ruble from all federal budget revenues on military needs. This was reported by the Moscow Times. And despite such colossal expenditures, the successes of the Russian army are insignificant.
On the battlefield today, as we know, there are fierce battles. Today, practically in all directions, the enemy is trying to continue its pressure. And although those who predicted for us at the beginning of this summer, especially some Western colleagues, a failure and collapse of the front, today they are squealing in their writings, saying, look, the Russian summer offensive campaign of 2025 has failed. We are fighting by all the rules, and that is our strength. That is what will help us win.
The defense forces of Ukraine are not giving Russian soldiers any respite, even on the temporarily occupied territory, both on land and at sea. For example, Gur fighters have seriously damaged a missile ship in the Sea of Azov. Fighters from the Special Unit of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine primarily damaged the ship's radar with a strike from an aerial drone. And special forces from the Department of Active Operations of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine attacked a carrier of Caliber missiles. As a result of the strikes, the Russian missile ship, which was in the potential launch zone for Caliber missiles in the Taimayart Bay, sustained damage and was forced to leave the area of combat duty. Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. On the same day, operatives from the main intelligence directorate managed to destroy a radar station from the S-400 system on the occupied Crimean Peninsula. This radar station is capable of detecting targets at a distance of up to 600 kilometers and simultaneously tracking 300 targets. The successful defense by the armed forces of Ukraine along the entire front line, as well as targeted strikes in the rear and on occupied territory, only strengthen Ukraine's position ahead of possible future negotiations with the Kremlin.
And it seems that failures on the front are seriously impacting the morale of Putin's army. Occupiers from an elite brigade of Russian paratroopers shot themselves for the sake of money and awards. Russian media are in shock. Currently, Putin's security forces are conducting an investigation. How is it that Russian soldiers were inflicting combat wounds on themselves to avoid fighting Ukrainians? Watch the report for more details.
Announcer. Interestingly, after investigators started to unravel this thread, it turned out that the heroic deeds Frolov so generously shared with grateful propagandists were nothing but plain lies. For example, the fourth daughter, the girl whom Frolov supposedly rescued on the battlefield and later adopted, and about whom the correspondent so triumphantly spoke in the TV report, does not actually exist.
Konstantin Frolov. We were on a mission there. We got hit, and a house nearby was hit as well. The girl was badly wounded there. I picked her up and carried her. And then she said to me, "Uncle Savior, you're bleeding." I looked and saw I was covered in blood. And when I carried her to the medics and handed her over, I immediately passed out.
Narrator. During the investigation, Konstantin Frolov also gave up another accomplice, Guard Colonel Artem Horodailov, commander of the 83rd Brigade. By the way, he was promoted after commanding one of the units in Bucha at the beginning of the Russian invasion.
Artem Horodilov. The main thing is, yes, willpower, courage, and character. Honor is more valuable than life.
Narrator. Horodilov is also accused of large-scale fraud. It turned out that in his position, he also used his cunning. He quickly figured out how to get rich and gladly helped self-inflicted soldiers receive payments and state awards. Artem Horodilov also revealed his accomplices and admitted his guilt. The defendants in the case tried to return to the so-called SVO zone instead of going to jail, but so far without success. In the near future, the Luhansk Garrison Military Court will consider the merits of this case and deliver a verdict. Announcer. And what do you think about the latest news from the front? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button under the video and stay fully prepared for all the main updates. There's more to come.